Hi, I'm Will Webb, and this is Why You Should Watch. This episode is a little different, as instead of talking about an inspiration, we're talking about the director's own work. In this episode, I'm joined by Carla Simón, a writer-director whose second film, Alcarràs, tells the story of the Soler family, peach farmers who are being evicted from their land in the titular area of Spain. Alcarràs won the Golden Bear at Berlinale and is now in UK cinemas before releasing internationally on Mubi later in the year. And just to note, this conversation was recorded through Zoom, so apologies for any quality issues. Hi Carla, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
So I'm hoping that everyone listening has already seen Summer 1993, and if they haven't, it's currently on Mubi in the UK, so I highly recommend they go and see it. But I wanted to start off by talking about how that's kind of different to this film. Summer 93 has a very specific autobiographical feel to it. It essentially tells your childhood story, right, in a fictionalized way. And I know that Alcaraz draws on some of your family experience, but isn't so autobiographical. So I wonder if we could start off by talking about that kind of transition of work.
Yes, I mean it's also close to me and to my family, Alcaraz, but it's not like autobiographical. Mainly because the plot is fiction. But the truth part of it is that my uncles cultivate peaches in Alcarràs, which is a small village, and this is like my mom's family's business, no? So it's I didn't grow up in Alcarràs. I grew up in the village that is portrayed in Summer 1993. But I used to go and I still go very often to Alcarràs, for Christmas and summer holidays. So just spend time with my family. So it's a place that. Still, for me, it was very important to investigate properly, to be able to talk from the inside of this family. But it was somehow close to me, no. And the plot of Alcaraz came when my grandfather died, and because it was the first time that I thought, what would happen if one day these trees, that they cultivate. And there's a space that we all share as a family disappear, no? Because when you have a death in your family, it makes you think about this kind of things. And then even if my family still cultivate peaches, and I hope they will do it for a long time because my cousin wants to inherit the land, no? I realized that this was something that was happening to many families, that they have to abandon the land because it's no longer sustainable, no, as it used to be before, because fruit used to give a lot of money to the area, but now because the prices are changing all the time, it's harder to live out of it, no. So the plot came more, but between this thing about my grandfather and then also talking a lot to my uncles and learning about what was happening in the area.
So I wonder, is there like an author avatar for you in Alcaraz? I know there's like, I think it's one of the aunts, right? One of the three siblings comes from Barcelona, I think, to the farm regularly. So is that kind of closer to you than the other characters?
Well, this one would be closer to my mom because she left this village when she was 18 to go with my dad, no, and then they went to live in this other village that it's portrayed in Summer 1993, and she goes there just from time to time, no. So, and it's funny because this character is portrayed by my sister, who obviously knows my mom very well, right, and my sister she's a professional actress, so she's the only professional actress in the ensemble cast, no. And I would say that if there's a character that I relate to, it would be Mariona, who is the teenager girl, because she's in this age where she starts discovering the adult world, no, and understanding that adults also make mistakes and fight each other and these kind of things. No? So I remember very well when I was about like 12, 13, 14, no, that suddenly the perspective about the family for me changed a lot, and I had this like observational attitude, no?
Yeah.
That actually I relate a lot to my desire to make films as well, no? So yeah, so I like this character a lot because I feel I could be her, no?
It's funny. I watched the film with my family over Christmas,
Hmm.
and it was interesting
Yeah,
to see. We were talking about it as an ensemble film, but then
yeah.
like, is there a main character? Is there someone who you follow more, who the audience kind of relates to? And I think it probably is Mariona. Like
Hmm.
for us, it was anyway. And I wonder if that's because out of everyone, I think she gets the clearest emotional kind of journey in the film, that wonderful
Hmm.
bit with the dance
Yeah,
that she doesn't do at the end, like
yeah,
so much about
yes,
thwarted sort of ambition in that context. And I got to say, like, I
yeah.
think for me, the big thing I like about your work is the family story kind of focus.
Hmm.
I have a really big
Yeah,
family. I have a kind of
yeah.
I have two sets of family because my parents are divorced, and both sides of
Hmm.
the family are massive. And so
Okay.
it's great to see stuff like this moment of family bliss in Alcarràs where they eat snails, I think, and
Yeah,
have a pool party. That's kind of
yeah.
very very relatable. All the eating and shouting at the table is very my family thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of interested in that you have quite a lot of stuff that feels universal in those films, but also
Hmm.
plenty of very specific stuff. And there's one
Hmm.
thing that I was wondering on rewatching about not having much context on, which is about the Spanish Civil War background that comes up in Alcaraz.
Hmm.
And I wonder
Yeah.
if you could speak on that. I'm particularly interested in there's a song that recurs throughout the film, and I was wondering if that's related to
Hmm.
that era, if that's specific to that.
The song that the grandfather sings and then the little girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's older than the Civil War. This
Okay.
song, yeah, it's very, very, very old. Actually, it's funny because it was very hard to find this song. We wanted to find a song from the area, which was complicated because not many like songs that go from generation to generation have been kind of recorded. So when we asked around, there was not like a big consensus about which song we should put. No, so we ended up finding this one that was recovered recently, and it had the origin was religious, so it was sung in the church, but then it kind of transformed to something else and it became like a popular song. But we liked this song because it was kind of easy to sing, and at the same time it doesn't have lyrics because it's this kind of lyrics that you make up while you sing, no?
Oh,
So
okay.
we end up like building the lyrics through another song which is called the songs of harvesting, no? So songs that
Yeah.
they used to sing while doing the harvest. And this song is very difficult to sing, so that's why we kind of mix both. And there are many recorded lyrics for this one, no? So at the end, yeah, it was a mix of both. That it's not like it didn't exist, but it feels like this kind of song that it's been there forever, no? Yeah, and the thing about the Civil War, yeah, for us it was very important this part because in Spain we haven't fixed quite well
Yeah,
the
sure.
historical memory, no? And still the Civil War, there are some places that it's still a thing, no? And it's still present. And this Alcaraz is in the border between Catalonia and Aragon, which means that there were a lot of battles there, and you can still you go around in the landscape and you can still find bunkers where that they used in the Civil War, no? So it's very present in the landscape and also in the memory of the family. And because the ownership of the land has always been something that it's a problem, like it
Yeah.
never got fixed, no? So that's why it made sense to kind of recall something that happened during the Civil War that people inherit, and then at some point this has to end, no? Because until when you have to kind of inherit this kind of contracts that were just a word, no?
When I watched the film, I was struck by there's kind of like three things going on. There's this political story about like the specific thing to do with the peach farmers, and then there's a
Mm-hmm.
subtext about in general modernity and tradition, like in the way in
Mm-hmm.
which the young people are trying to work out where they're going to be. Like, are they going to be farmers? Are they going to go out and do other
Yeah.
stuff? And they have a complex relationship with their family through that. And then there's just this emotional story underneath about the family. And I
Mm-hmm.
liked how they all kind of intermotivated each other, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Like I was struck that is it Roger, yeah, he's the son. Him cultivating his own weed on the farm is a very modern thing for him to do, and yet it is also a traditional thing. He's the one who grows the vegetables on the farm as well, right? He grows the little like allotments, and I love that that's kind of him trying to find his own path to tradition via modernity. Some interesting stuff in there.
No, but it's funny that you say this like 3 lines, but for me there is always I have this theory that it's very personal when I write a script that you need 2 main themes, no, that kind of go together and then you balance them, no. And in this case, it was obviously the land, one of the themes, and then the family crisis, no. And in the case of Summer 1993, it was the grief of the girl and the process of adoption, no, and adaptation in this new house, no. So it was also like the family somehow that was newly created, no. So it was a way to kind of and I always think like what's more important, no? But it's like the big plot is the land and it has to kind of keep going. But for me, I pay a lot of attention to family dynamics because this is what I really love to portray, no? So it's finding this equilibrium, no? And about what you are saying about the marijuana that Roger cultivates, this is that was very funny because when we showed the film in the area of Alcarràs, when they saw the cornfield, they were already laughing because they knew that what was inside, no, and because everyone they plant marijuana trees in cornfields, no. So this is something that they've been doing for a long time. Now they are stopping to do it because the police have drones. So they know where it is. It's getting more complicated now. But in any case, for me, it was interesting that Roger was suggesting, you can either call it traditional or modern way of growing vegetables, because he, from time to time, he talks about ecological agriculture, no? And for me, this is the future. So if there is any hope on, cultivate the land in a small family business or in a small business or in a small in general and being respectful with the land, for me, it's ecological agriculture, no? And in Spain, we are quite far to do this transition, mainly because it takes time. So a family that wants to go from traditional agriculture to ecological agriculture, it takes about 4 or 5 years, which is really hard to sustain if you for like these years to not have any income. It's really complicated. But for me, it's the future, because it doesn't make sense that having the climate change here, we still cultivate the land in like big companies that explode it, no? So that's why Roger has this aim to kind of not use the product, no? I don't know how you call it in English, but the chemical,
like pesticides, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And of course you can't do that with weed, because otherwise anyone ends up smoking it. So So I was thinking about what you were saying about having all the themes overlap, and in Summer 93, one of my favorite recurring things is the main character, like her prayers. She prays privately and does these kind of like kid-like, she gives gifts to the Mary, right? And like that kind of level of these different themes coming together. But there's not much religion in Alcaraz. And I was wondering if that was on your list originally, your list of interlapping themes, or did it fall out?
Well, there is a scene. No, it's true that there is a scene in a church.
The choir,
because they go, because this is more like a activity, like a social activity they do in the villages still now, no, and even young people too. So that's interesting. But it's true that even it's less and less present, no, religion in Spain, even if people don't think so. But it's not as present as it used to be. Although in these villages, many people, so old people still go to church, and even young people still do the baptize and the first I don't know how you call it,
like confirmation, or
yes, exactly, these things, no. But yeah, and there's something funny in the area, in the area of Alcaraz, that even old people, they say, when you ask them, do you believe no in God? And they are like, I do believe in God, but not in the church. Because there was a thing that happened many years ago about a piece of land that was for the church, and then they took it from the farmers. And this was like a big
Right.
issue there. So
Yeah.
they don't like churches.
Yeah, I
Yes,
can
well, I mean,
imagine.
I told it, yeah, they don't like priests in general.
Yeah.
But this is only like in this little area, no? But it's true that it could be more present, but yeah, it's less and less every day.
Well, it's one of my favorite things about films is that they have that ability, especially in observational dramas like yours, to kind of take you into a place that you otherwise wouldn't go to. And
Yeah.
I've traveled through films much more than I've traveled in real life, and I've done a fair amount of that. So yeah, it's nice to spend 2 hours sometimes in another place. And even then, like that, the celebration they have at the end looked in some ways very similar to the harvest celebrations, the traditional ones that still happen in England, even down to throwing fireworks at each other, like teenagers throwing fireworks around and stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's still a very common thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so thinking about observation, I was interested. I was watching some interviews with you, and you originally thought about being a journalist. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm kind
Yes,
of
but
fascinated in that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because
that
there's
was
this very observational kind of almost reporting character to a lot of your
yeah.
film. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I don't know. I never thought of this connection, but I wanted to be a journalist basically because I wanted to travel. When I was a teenager, this was my aim in life to travel, no? And I wanted to be a journalist of the National Geographic.
Okay.
That was like my dream. And then and then I discovered film, and I decided that I wanted to make film. But it's true what you are saying. Like for me, the this like attachment to reality is important, no? So I like films that look like life, no? And
Mm.
like I like when things, you feel that things happen in front of the camera by chance, no?
Yeah.
Even though there is no chance in fiction, no, as we know. But yeah, and with Alcaraz, the idea of portrait was something that we always had very present, no? So we are doing a portrait of this place, which means that even sometimes as a filmmaker, you would be taking some decisions or like according to your taste, but then you are not going this way. You are going to the way that has like uh basically that shows the place, no? So when
Mm.
I think that you know I ended up putting some techno music in my film, I'm like, I never thought I would do that, but it makes sense for Roger because this is what young people listen there, no? Or that, yeah, or even like we talked a lot about how to portray men and women, no? Because nowadays it's like, okay, we need these stories about women who are empowered and feminist, and and they kind of I don't know, discover themselves, no? And in this area, this is not there yet, really,
Mm.
no? So there is still toxic masculinities, and this it's getting there, but slowly, no, than other places. So it was very important to show this, no, even if it doesn't feel like a modern or contemporary story, no.
Yeah.
So the idea of portrait was something that we tried to be very faithful to, no, and that's why the investigation process was very important. Like with Arnau, who is the co-writer, we lived for during 2 summers in the house, in the farmhouse of my uncles that is surrounded by peaches, and so we would be writing from there, and they will arrive at they would arrive at 6 a.m. and go to the harvest, and we would go with them sometimes and speak a lot to them, and also to Arnaud's family because they are also farmers.
Right.
And this contact with our families and also with the people from the area when we did the casting was very, very important to be able to tell everything from the inside of the family. I was like really afraid of giving the feeling of someone from outside or with an outsider look
Yeah.
portraying this place, no?
And I think that comes across even in the camera language. One of the things that struck me about it was, I say it struck me. I mean, it's funny because I don't think the film is it doesn't hit you over the head at all. So I don't know why I keep thinking about being struck by something. But the camera is almost always at eye height. So even like from a directing point of view, I think it's a really difficult, complex film to make because you have these like 8 or so main characters who are all different ages and physically different heights, and you manage the transition between those points of view really well. And I noticed it's like you see it really clearly in the opening sequence when the kids arrive while the adults are having a difficult conversation. And for about half of that scene, we don't see the adults' faces. We watch them from behind, from the eye height of the kids. And then there's a transition to being at the adults' height. And then the kids kind of run off and they go back, I think, with Mariana. And then you kind of follow at her height. And it's a kind of testament to how powerful eye height, like the level of the camera can be in communicating some of that stuff. But there's 2 moments that I noticed in particular where it goes off that eye height very dramatically, which are the opening and closing shots of the film to see the farm, basically.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could talk a bit about that, how you developed that camera language, I guess, with Daniela, is it? The cinematographer?
Yeah, Daniela. Yeah, Daniela Garcia. Yes, that was like, I really learned a lot with this film in that sense, no? Because coming from summer 1993, which is like one point of view from the girl's perspective, which means that the camera was going to be to her eye level, we never got lost, no? So every time that we were like, okay, where should we be? It was always like with her, and leaving out some things or like looking from her to the things, no? And this was very beautiful to do, but at the same time very simple, no? And with Alcaraz, it was really complex because we had many characters, and obviously we wrote it thinking of that, no? So the idea was that the whole family was like an only body, no? So the emotional journey, because I was very afraid of emotion, no? Like how are people going to feel emotion if you just see a little bit of each of them, no? So the idea was just, okay, because you have to do the journey with the whole family, no? Or the emotional journey with all of them, no? And so basically we wrote it in this idea of one character pass the emotion to the other character, then go, you say like pass the baton, no? Or something like that in English. Yeah. So that was the idea, no? That the emotion goes from one to the other, as it happens when you share the same roof with a family. That like someone gets angry and then suddenly 3 more people are angry. They don't even know why, So this is very natural, no? So we worked a lot on that on the script, and then because for me it was very important to be very clear on where the camera would be in every scene. Because we had many options all the time, so we could really get lost in the shooting. So we spent a week with all the heads of department, just reading the script and going scene by scene and making sure that we were all on the same page on where the camera or with whom the camera would be in each scene, no? And also how this is going to end and how the next scene is going to start, no? And then obviously what happened in the shooting is that we had like 12 people. They were non-professional actors, and then we could go there with the short list and everything very clear, but then things happen. And then you have to adjust and adapt to them, and that was complicated. But for me, being very, very clear on where the camera should be for each scene was very important, no? Because it was the way to make sure that the emotional journey would go on the direction we were wishing, no? And then obviously in the editing room you end up like polishing and fixing some things that can help you, no? Too.
I heard that you had like a different ending at one point, like the family cried just while you were on set, and then you pulled it back. Is that the ending where that happened? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, what happened with this? Because as I said, I'm always very worried about emotion, but not just for the lack of it, also for the excess or like too much emotion.
Yeah, like melodrama. You don't want to lean into that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. So what happened in the last scene is that they couldn't, because we pull up the trees in another place that they had to pull up the trees. So we shot this in a place in another place, and then we put a green screen on the house. For then in post-pro to put it together, no? So they were looking at something that was not happening, and it was so hard for them to feel it, no?
Yeah.
So then I ended up doing this huge speech about them losing the land, and then we put a guy just driving a tractor just for the sound, no? And at the end, they really got like into the mood. And then the grandfather started crying. And this was like a kind of domino effect because like then the teenager boy too, the teenager girl, the little girl, the mom, the auntie, everyone was crying. All the crew were crying as well because you see this and at some point you end up crying too. And this was not written like that. But we filmed everything. And then I went home that day and said, I'm sure we are going to edit this because it was very magical, no? And when we got into the editing room and we tried to edit this crying thing, for me, it really felt too much. It felt that it was not fair with the way that the emotion was treated in the film, no? So it was too pushy for the audience to cry, and I really don't like that. Like, I hate when films do this to me, So that's why we decided to just, step back and go to the other version of it because we had it because they didn't cry from the beginning. And so we just put the little moment where the grandfather gets emotional, and then that's all, no? So so this for me is something that it's very important to play around and try out, and editing is very crucial in that part too.
I guess for me, it's like the emotional climax of the film happens a couple of scenes earlier when the dad cries after dropping that crate of peaches. And you've spent an hour and a bit with his family as these damn peaches, so valuable and so like carefully taken by hand. And when he cries, you focus on the kids. You focus on Mariona and Roger, who are there. And I think it's almost like that's the moment where they actually understand kind of what's going on, like that they kind of connect with him. And so like, I feel like by the time you get to that ending, that the emotions happened. Like it, and as you said in this interview that I read, like, it's like they've already come to terms with it. And they're now just seeing what's going to happen, what's actually happening. Yeah.
Kimet, the character of the father, no, that he has his harvest to do during the whole summer, no. That's why for me that this premise was interesting, no, that he gets the news about they have to leave the land at the beginning of the summer, but he has a harvest to do, so he cannot really face these news or deal with them. So towards the end of the summer is when he can actually accept that this is getting to an end, no? So that's why he cries at the end, no? Because during the summer he just can only think of picking the peaches, because the peaches is the fruit that you really have to get it right and pick it in the right time, no?
And that's the money, I guess, too, right? There's that economic thing kind of lying underneath it.
Yes.
You mentioned about kind of switching stuff up from what you intended, and I found a quote from you. I'm not going to quote you, don't worry. But I found a thing that you said in an interview. You said crews weren't used to directors admitting doubts that you found when you were working, and you felt like it was something that women were bringing, or that you said like we're making it okay for men to do it too, which is nice. It allows, but you said that allowed you to kind of go past what maybe seems like the obvious choice and to do new things. And I wondered, I know that you did a lot of improv and rehearsal time and then didn't really improvise on set much. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wonder if you could talk about your, not just improvising with actors, but improvising with your crew as well, like as you develop the work together.
Yes. For me, it's very important that, even if they are actors or non-actors, I don't care. But the fact that we arrive in the shooting feeling that the relationships that they have to portray are real, no? And for that, you have to spend time together. And that's why, for the rehearsals, I rented a house in the area, and they would come very often to this house, and we just played or improvised moments that could have happened before the story of Alcarràs, no? Right. And so because I was reviewing my documents the other day, and I realized I had a document with like 120 pages of rehearsals, wow. Which was crazy, but it was just a way to create like little moments that were kind of built the relationships and also the background of the story, no? So some kind of memory that they could all share, no? So in this document, I just prepare every rehearsal, okay, so today, I don't know, Roger and his father are gonna do a car lesson, no? And here's the conflict. Or today, the little kids are gonna build the cabin, and then for some reason someone is gonna kind of destroy it. And so there were things that they are in the film that we would start like trying out, no? And then also, as I said, the background, no? So we worked a lot on the fact that they were gonna lose the land, and that they had some like a case court that they had to go to the court. And then I had my friend coming and playing as a lawyer, no, and helping them to find papers. And then all the family were like trying to find papers, and even the little girl, just one day she found a paper, and then she got scolded because she played with it, so these kind of things that could, that just made them spend time together. And then also we did like normal things, like even going for a walk, or cooking, or eating pizza and watching a film. Or in the case of like, Mariona and the auntie have this like really nice relationship. So one day Mariona went to Barcelona to visit her aunt, so this kind of things that could just help them to get a family, no? And yeah, so this was with the actors. But what happens then is that, and then obviously at some point we read the script, like after 3 months together, and then we rehearsed the scenes of the film, no?
Right.
But then obviously you get to the shooting, and then there are many people, and for them it was very shocking that we went from this like very, very close intimacy, because at the beginning it was just me and my camera and them, no? And then little by little I introduced people, but just people close to me, no? So like a coach that came the last month of rehearsals, or the script, or the DOP, obviously the dress designer, no? But they didn't know many people from the crew. So the first week was really hard for them, because it was like, who is all these people, no? And what are they doing? So also the crew needed to learn this. And the thing about the questioning or the dubbing thing that I usually I like to kind of reivindicate is because, I realize that crews are not so used to making films where you don't know exactly what's going to happen in front of the camera. No?
Yeah.
And I try, like, I try to make sure that what's written is going to happen in front of the camera, but sometimes you have to be a little bit open, because something more interesting than what you wrote can happen too. And more if you have created all these like setups, and you get there with people who really have feelings for each other, So yeah, at the beginning I would get all these looks like, you are the same director of Summer 1993, like, are you sure you know what you are doing? And then little by little people understood that this was this kind of film, that we were working with people who were there like for the first time, first of all, and then also ready to kind of, I don't know, like do the script thing, but also do something else. And we had to be prepared to catch that, And that's why for me it's super important that the camera learns to adapt to the actors, and it's not the actors that adapt to the camera. Because if it's this way, then you are kind of breaking something that you're not making them shine, It's you're making them more rigid. And sometimes it happens, because this happens to shooting. Like you have so many people, you have to take these, and then suddenly you say, okay, you sit down here, or you do this, and then it's just not working, And this is when I think it's very important to react as a director and fix it,
I think when I started like reading about films was like the peak of having filmmakers who were very like mannered. All of their stuff was very pre-considered and very pre-planned. And there's for sure a place for that. And obviously it depends what you're doing. Stunt work has to be pre-planned, things like that. But the more that I've worked in it, I found that when I watch those films, they feel like there's not enough room for me. There's not enough room for the viewer to sit there and kind of find the gaps and fill things in. And I find that some of my favorite filmmakers are the people who leave out stuff to let us decide and things. So I wanted to talk about your inspirations, actually, your filmmaking inspirations. You mentioned, like I said, I watched these interviews. Claire Denis is a surprising one to me. I'm kind of interested in that. I think there's, because I think about her as being I mean, there is a lot of improvisation in her work, but it's less realist in some ways than your stuff. But I can certainly see it. And it's funny that you mentioned Alice Rohrwacher, because Happy as Lazaro has always kind of been in my head as like a sister film to Summer 93. I think it's partly that they came out within a year of each other in the UK.
Yeah.
And the key art was really similar. There was that picture of the little girl in Summer 93, kind of with all the greenery around her, and they had a similar sort of one for Lazaro.
That's true. I never thought of that.
And I guess they're similar. I mean, her previous film feels like similar in some ways to Alcaraz, right? It's about farmers and it's about like kids trying to manage their parents and things like that. So when I watched Alcaraz, what it reminded me of most was Hirokazu Koreeda. I wonder if you've seen his stuff. Do you like his work?
Yes. Yeah, I like him very much. Yes, and he worked with kids really well and nicely. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
No, for me, the way that he directs kids and the way he films them, it's very interesting, and I love it. And also, Alice for me, it's like a very obvious influence, but it's true, like for each time that I see her films, and because of the themes that she tackles, like I feel very close to her, but in Spain, not in Italy.
Yeah.
Yes, but also and with the wonders, like I grew up in this kind of house, so for me it was it was very kind of personal as well, this film, and with Claire Denis, I love her so much, but I think that maybe it's not, if you see her films and my films, they have nothing to do, but there is something that she always says that for me it's very crucial, that is the love she needs to feel for her characters, not only her characters, also the people that portrays her characters, and I realize that I really need that too, that I don't know, when I think with her characters, even if they are doing things that are not good, or
sometimes like very not good.
Yeah, the way she portrays them, it's always with this kind of like very delicate, sensual, loving approach,
Yeah.
And probably with my films, I don't have this sensual part, mainly because I'm talking about family and different, but for me, this love that you need to feel, and she says that she works with actors that she needs to feel in love somehow, so fall in love, sorry. That she needs to like them as people too. And I think that this is very important because somehow for me filming is almost like an act of love, and I need to feel something for these people, and this part of liking the people I film, not only in like as characters and in fiction, but also in real life, is something that that I feel very relate to.
Yeah. How do people make a film with someone they don't like? It's wild, isn't it? It's like you spend 3 months in every day with this person for 10 hours every day. I mean, I don't know how they do it.
This happens a lot. It happens a lot, and I think that it depends on the way you portray characters. That's why I like Claire Denis, because she has this love with everyone that she portrays, but it's true that if you have like a more kind of cold approach to your characters, then it's okay, you can work with someone that you don't like.
Yeah, for sure. And we've only got a couple minutes left, so I thought I may as well ask, what's next for you? Is there another film on the horizon already?
Yes. I'm writing. Like now, I became a mom, and my life is complicated to to do everything. But luckily, I started writing before actually shooting Alcaraz, because Alcaraz had to be shot in 2020, and because of COVID, we postponed. So I have now this project that is on the way. It's about it's about family memory, and how you need to find your family memory in order to build your own identity, and how when you don't find it, you can even make it up, and it's the kind of like a research of a girl to her roots, let's say.
Okay, and autobiographical again? I know your parents died when you were very young, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit. It has to do with my life, but the idea is more talking about like a whole generation. That
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
that had the same situation. Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a bit strange when someone asks you if the film is biographical in some way, because of course it has to be, right? You have to find your thing, to do a way to connect with it as a creative. So yeah, absolutely.
All of them are somehow.
Just because I saw your interview at NYFF where they called this the second part of a trilogy. They called Alcarràs that kind of like in a thematic trilogy. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's what the new film will be?
I mean, kind of, because they are films related to my family, no? And I really like that, because now I'm thinking about the next one, not next one, the fourth film. I'm hoping to do something that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be called a trilogy.
So it's like your space sci-fi kind of film.
Kind
of course. Okay, good. Look, Carla, it's been lovely to have a chat, and I hope that all of the viewers get a chance to see Alcaraz in the cinemas, and if not, on Mubi soon enough.
Yes, thank you so much.